Welcome back to the channel, guys. Hope you're having a good Saturday so far. It's the weekend, so no more working on Volkswagens for a while. Let's work on our square body. Got to work on our own personal stuff once in a while, right? So, my last video, I had shown I replaced my cab corner, inner and outer rocker, floor, and the kick panel. Some floor supports. Had to do some major work to the hinge area, and I had some struggles, as you'll see if you watch that, or to get my door to shut and line up decent, but made it work. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start attacking the door repair. I've got the lower inner part, and then from that other video, what I had done is I had attached my lower skin on here. I'd cut it off, and I put this on temporarily before I cut my old rocker off. I didn't want to, or I wanted to have some type of reference point when I did the rocker work, so I knew where my rocker had to come. You know, I had made the measurements that top of my rocker was to that line this much, and I had showed you that this patch panel is short. I had to bend the seam back because I'm going to have to rebend it to make it work. It's good in the front. So as I'm dealing with this, I've got a dent right here. My hinge has been screwed on a couple different times. The holes are stripped out. The back side of my door skin is still kind of rusty up to right about in here. Take this off of here and show you how nice and clean it is. You can see there's a lot of rust in here, so that's what the inner part is, but back in here this is kind of crusty too. So what I did is, I'm not going to use that piece. I ordered a whole new door skin. Just going to be a better repair. I don't have to worry about fixing this dent. These holes will be taken care of. I won't have this big seam that I have to try to weld on and planish and get it straight and whatnot. It's going to be simpler. And for the cost of that, I think it was $29 for the door skin. I figured it's just worth it, even if it isn't 100% perfect. So that's the route I'm going to go. Biggest problem is I'm waiting for FedEx to get here to deliver it. So let me start cutting and getting some of this stuff out of here. And I'll come back when I have that done and how I'm fitting stuff and show you what we have. All right? We'll see you in a bit. Hello. So I've been doing a lot of pondering here, scratching my head, trying to figure out where I want to cut this off. Everything, looking at it from the other side, is definitely good through here. The bottom of my little vents here are this first vent is about where it is. There's rust right here. The patch panel does not include these vents, so I'm going to have to sacrifice probably the bottom one or two here. And I figure I should be able to cut through here, and that brings me like halfway in the middle of my hinge. So what I have is there's some spot welds here that hold this inner piece to this inner structure of the door, which is a big plate here that basically where the bolt holes, nuts, cage for the hinges. So I'll drill those spot welds out. That'll separate me from that. It'll leave this inner piece in here. And here's about halfway up my hinge. So, you know, this all looks pretty decent through there. Then I don't, this does have the holes where the hinge bolts go through. I think I'll be able to just slide that up in there then. So that's what I'm going to tackle first. I'm going to get those spot welds out, and I'm going to cut off a little bit lower than where I think I want to go, because I can always cut more first. Always cut less than you need to the first few times, just to make sure. You can always cut more, but you can't add on very easily. So that's the tack I'm going to take on that. And when I get it cut out, I'll bring you back. All right. So I've got the inner portion cut out. I went through, made myself a line. I stayed very low, like I said I was going to. I cut all the way through, and then I cut down so this piece would come out. Then over here, I drilled out my spot welds, and then there was 2 also here. Took out my bottom 2 bolts on the hinges, or on the hinge, and managed to carefully cut it all the way around, and then I could pull that right out of there, and I still got my top bolt in the hinge, so my door is staying where I want it to. So that actually was pretty darn simple. So I take our new panel here now, and I did trim a little bit off of it. It was up here probably this much higher, but I knew I didn't need all that. I still wanted to stay up high enough. And so now what I'm going to do, see if I can get this up here. Okay, I got that behind the hinge, amazingly. Let's move it back a little bit here. Now what I did, before I cut that off, similar to what I did with the rocker, is I made myself a measurement, took a reference measurement. So from this edge of the door here down to the bottom of this 19 5/8 is where we want to be. Stay there for me. That's pretty close there, but that's how I'm going to get my bottom in the right spot. Did the same thing on this side, up from this hole, 24 5/8. Pretty close. That front part of the door isn't so bad to get in the right spot because we have this piece right here that it's going to basically bump up to. So that's how I'm fitting that in there. What I'm going to end up doing now is I want to get this clamped. Actually, I've got a screw here that I'm going to put in. Make sure you see me there yet. Okay, so that should give me my dimension. 19 5/8. 24 5/8. So that's where I want that to go. So what I'm going to do, for me this always works well. You can't always do it. But now that I have this where I want it, I'm going to start cutting these both out at the same time. That is going to give me a nice fit up. Instead of cutting and drawing a line, this way they're going to be both the same. I'm going to end up coming down just a little bit here. I'm going to lose 2 of my vents is what's going to end up happening, which isn't the worst, I guess. I don't really know if it's worth trying to make those 2 vents in there. I'm not going to bother with it. I'll live with missing 2 of them. But yeah, so I'm going to take like my cutoff wheel here, and I'm just going to end up cutting both of those at the same time. And it'll give me a perfect setup. Then I'll come back and I'll put my butt weld clamps in there, and I'll be able to weld that all together. Closing it up on the bottom here, it looks like it should be about where it should be. I will definitely not fully weld this on until I get my door skin and kind of have that fit, just to make sure that our bottom is in the right spot. But that's my plan of attack, how I'm going to go about that. I'll get some of this cut out, and we're in the afternoon. FedEx should be here soon. I'm surprised they actually are working on Saturday, but it says it's out for delivery, hopefully. Okay? Okay, everybody. I've got this bottom inside piece mounted up there. Temporary fit, about ready to start welding. It actually isn't too bad. Not quite right in here, but we can deal with that. I did have to do some trimming along this edge. It was sticking way out too far, and it was actually hitting the cab corner there. So I had to trim that. This will all pull in. I've got it all primed up inside because I got the E-coating off. And FedEx did show up, but I guess I wasn't paying attention when I looked at the stuff online. I didn't get a complete door skin. That's what I got. Only goes up to here. And I did do some looking online, and it doesn't look like you can get a complete door skin for a square body. You can buy the whole door shell, but they don't seem to include the whole thing. You can't get that. I know on my VW buses and stuff, I can get this entire piece up to like right in here, and then I can graft it in. So we'll have to make do with what I have there. I'll probably end up making the seam right where the trim is, and that's all right, I guess. Not the worst thing in the world. It's better up here than down here, because down here with this inside on, I wouldn't be able to really reach in there to planish my tack welds. Up here I'll be able to get in there easier from the inside to do that. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to start tacking this bottom in a little bit. So make sure it's hitting decent. It looks like it's all right, but start doing that, and then I'm going to start bending my lips on that other panel there. And I'll take this piece of chrome off and cut my door outer skin the rest of the way off. So what I'll do for taking that off on the edges, what works really well is, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but right here I had already done it I'll take my grinder and I'll grind this edge, and it'll split that, because this is just folded over, and then that whole outside piece will pop off of there. There's a couple of spot welds on the inner strip, but those will drill out easy enough, and then the inner little piece comes right off. I found that the best. I do that on my other restorations, so just a little tip. Makes it a lot quicker. So, well, we'll check back in a little bit. Hello! Got the bottom all tacked in. I don't want to go any further yet. I figure I'm going to try to fit this outer skin. So I cut that out. Always cut much lower or much less than you need, because I'm going to weld somewhere along here. We don't want to cut that. I'll end up cutting my patch panel and this at the same time, like I do on most of my stuff, like I did on here. So what I'm doing right now is I'm bending my lips. I had to do quite a bit of grinding on the edge of this bottom piece, because I know I showed you on this side before it was overlapping over here in the cab corner, but it was even really close to the bottom of the rocker too, and same here, it wasn't. So I needed to get that squared away so our piece is in there right. So what I'm trying to do right now, or what I am doing, is I've got my skin, and I'm bending this bottom lip here. It comes only bent at a 90 degree here, like the sides are. So what I did is I went over to the sheet metal brake, and I bent it as far as I could on the brake. Then I took these boards and the hammer, and I slowly got it down there further. And then I took this old part of my door skin and I put a 90 degree bend in it, and I stuffed it in there. And then I've been going along with the hammer and been pounding that flat. So I wanted this in here. What that helped me with, one, when you sit and pound on this, it tends to stretch uneven and you get a curved panel. So having this 90 degree bend here as I'm pounding this flat kept it straight for me. You can I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but you can kind of see where I don't have the metal here, how it's kind of curved up. So I'll have to mess with that a little bit, but if I wouldn't have had this in here, this whole thing would have been one big curve. So that's what I'm doing on my lips. On the sides, I'm not going to be able to do that right away until I get it on, otherwise I'd never get the darn thing on, but I'll be able to get this up and on there. And likely what's going to have to happen on the sides is, because our door is curved here, we're going to have to end up notching these a little bit, so when we fold it over it goes in nice. So it's never easy to get a nice factory fold over without having to do some metal work, but just wanted to show you where I'm at right now. So I'm going to put this on and then I'll show you when I cut it. Cool. So I want to give you another quick update here. So I'm working on getting this panel. Obviously this lock hole is not even close to the right spot, so it's a good thing I didn't cut that out. When I did cut my original door, I went like this around it, so I'll deal with that. But I've got it up here. I've got my bottom lip bent. What I want to do now is I need to start clamping stuff and getting into position, but I don't have the inside of my door panel epoxied yet. So I want to take that off, strip that e-coating, get epoxy on there, and finish welding this up while it's still open, and get everything else inside that door rust proof the best I can for right now. So that's where I'm at. That way, once I start putting the panel on, I can leave it on and I can start tack welding and whatever I have to. You know, there's going to be quite a bit of massaging. I've got my bottom pretty good, but we're off up here. This is in a little bit too far up here. I mean, so there's going to be a lot of massaging. Fun. So I'll bring you back when I start doing some more fitting. All right.